Perfect ecstasy, boundless cacophony, excessive agony. I must have more. Hello, and welcome back, my fellow worshipper of the Dark Prince. I hear you would like to know the story of the perfect children of Fulgrim. My name is Wisdom of Warhammer, and I will start the story with how the Emperor's children were created, and then their time before meeting their gene father. And at the end, I will go over how they fell just like their father into Slaanesh's warm embrace. Now, let's dive into perfection to learn this knowledge of the greatest force in the legions of excess, shall we? The Third Legion was created alongside the other legions, but the thing that made the recruits a bit different from the other legions is that they were made up of noble sons of Europa on Terra. The Legion fought alongside the young Imperial army due to their low numbers, and from this they became skilled at leading the base human soldiers. Now, I have made a mistake in my previous story saying that the Imperial Aquila was given to them to wear in battle was when the Primarch Fulgrim spoke to them and impressed the Corpse Emperor. Instead, they gained the symbol of the Imperium when a cohort of Emperor's children fought to the last warrior alongside the Custodes and the Corpse Emperor, who was wounded by a vortex weapon. Another thing that happened when they were given the Aquila, they were used as bodyguards of diplomatic parties and equerries. These good times would not last long because a virus came called the Blight, which made the Emperor's children legionaries start dropping like flies. Another issue was when a shipment of 3rd Legion gene seed went missing. Rumors say the gene cults of Luna destroyed it or it just disappeared. These two events almost made the Emperor's children die before the Great Crusade made it out of its infancy. And one small thing that happened during this as well was when the Blight was infecting the gene seed before implantation. Thankfully, the Phoenician was found and was reunited with the remaining legionaries that weren't dead and motivated them, and the Legion gained a new recruiting world called Chemos. They rejoined the other legions in the Great Crusade but lived and fought alongside the 16th Legion and their Primarch, Horus Lupercal. One thing that Fulgrim was worried about was that he was insecure about joining because of his low numbers, but his father asked Horus to help him out, so this is how it happened. The two legions fought alongside each other for a solar decade, which created a strong bond between the legions and the brothers. And several solar decades later, the 3rd Legion had a few thousand marines in their ranks. They parted ways and went into the Great Crusade to spread their perfection to the stars and humanity on their own. One other legion they were close with was with the Iron Hands, which seems weird because they seem like they wouldn't be similar, but they were. Each of their Primarchs had the mindset of perfection and their sons thought the same. The only difference is that the Iron Hands saw perfection through replacing limbs with cybernetics. Now, the first step into the fall of the Legion and their father was when they arrived at the planet named Laren, when they fought the Xenos race called the Lair. When the Emperor's children started slaughtering them, the apothecary Fabius Bile noticed that the Xenos had been upgrading themselves through genetic engineering. In the final battle, they arrived at a temple devoted to our beloved Slaanesh, and from this, Fulgrim took a beautiful and perfect blade from its altar and wore it for the remainder of the Great Crusade. From this event, the 3rd Legion started to fall from their perch of perfection into Slaanesh's version of perfection. And Fabius asked his father to improve the 3rd Legion. Fulgrim said no to this, but the demon in the sword whispered to him, saying that his sons will be perfect if they do this, and from this, Bile was allowed to do this, but keep it secret. After they left Laren, they assisted the Iron Hands and Ferrus Manus with the Diasporax, which made up of nomadic fleets of Xenos and humans. But the Gorgon did something that hurt the pride of the Phoenician, which caused the demon to gain more control on Fulgrim, slowly pushing him and his sons to Slaanesh. Now, the Horus Heresy would begin, and the traitor legions needed to get rid of the loyalist elements in their legions, and one of the purgings happened on Isstvan III. 4 legions, including the Emperor's children, sent down the loyalist elements of their legions to the surface. The traitors were about to wipe them out fast, but the loyalist Emperor's children legionnaire Sol Tarvitz warned them, and they were able to take cover in the bunker system on the planet. After that, the traitor legions fought them for over a few months, which angered the traitor Primarchs in orbit, but they were able to kill them. After that waste of time, the traitors prepared on Isstvan V, but they basically knew they would destroy the loyalist forces, which were 3 to 9, which favored the traitors heavily. When the legions were sent by the Corpse Emperor, they failed and it started off badly for the Iron Hands. They fought the Emperor's children and were being butchered by them after Fulgrim cut their Primarch's head off due to his hot head, but he has a cool head now. After the Emperor's children butchered the Iron Hands and took prisoners, which is a fate worse than death, and assisted in hunting the other loyalist legions. After they left, they fell into chaos, and that meant torturing prisoners, and even before the Istvan events, the Imperial composer named Bekwa Kinska created a symphony called the Malaguvaliera. This play was so mind-bending that the people who listened to it felt pleasure and fell into hedonism. This energy came from the warp, of course, and it opened a warp rift, sending demons out. This warp rift spread chaos throughout the Imperial crowd and citizens of the Emperor's children that were there, including Fulgrim. As legionaries watched the play, they went down to the stage to learn the instruments, and from this, the Noise Marines were created. The first commander of the Noise Marines was Captain Julius Caesarone, and named them the Caphoni, and this new type of weaponry would be quite effective in the Horus Heresy and up to the current setting. The first test in combat was when they fought the Iron Hands, and it was very successful. After the Istvan drop site massacre, some of the commanders in the 3rd Legion thought their Primarch was acting suspicious, with Lucius thinking that Fulgrim was trapped in a painting aboard the flagship. So the sensible thing in Lucius' mind and the other commanders of the 3rd Legion was to rush their Primarch and torture him. The commanders thought that Lucius was a lower being due to his rank, but agreed that something was off. After Fulgrim was tortured for a bit, the Primarch freed himself and then told his sons to plan for the path into the Grace of Slaanesh. He ordered his sons to then assault a Mechanicus facility on Prismatica 5 to take a crystal that the Mechanicus was studying. The next step of the path to Slaanesh is to join Perturabo and the Iron Warriors, and while they travel to their destination, they experience new things. By the time they arrived at the planet Hydra Cordatus, they were deep in the excessive hedonistic embrace of Slaanesh that the Iron Warriors and their Primarch were horrified by their appearance. Most of the 3rd Legion was now disfigured to a point of looking unrecognizable, and the enhancements that they made them look inhuman and not the beautiful Space Marines that they were before. From seeing this, Perturabo was suspicious of his brother and his nephews, but his brother told him that they were going to search for the Angel Exterminatus. This thing was a weapon, and to calm the suspicions of his brother, Fulgrim gave him a necklace, but it had a dark purpose for the Lord of Iron. One thing that the traitors didn't know was that a small force of survivors of the Istvan drop site massacre consisted of Raven Guards, Salamanders, and Iron Hands were following them. The traitors arrived at a crone world that contained the Angel Exterminatus, and the Iron Warriors bombarded the planet. Then they prepared their forces for planetfall, which consisted of a couple Titan legions, the entire force of traitor Marines, and their renegade Imperial Army regiment. As they went through the ruins of the Eldar crone world, the constructs awoke due to them sensing the power of She Who Thirsts and started butchering the invaders. Eventually, both traitor Primarchs arrived at their destination, but the Angel Exterminatus wasn't a weapon. It was Fulgrim who wanted the power and almost sacrificed his brother, but failed, but still transcended to demon Primarchhood. After this event on the Crone World, the Emperor's children then raided some other planets for slaves until they reached Terra. When they got to Terra, the Legion was a form of shadow of itself, and there was no discipline and no military structure anymore. The only thing they did was summon demonettes of Slaanesh and did terrible things to the Imperial citizens and just lounged around like their father. After some time of them doing nothing, the first captain of the Sons of Horus, Abaddon, convinced the first commander, Eidolon, to have Fulgrim take a force of Emperor's children to attack the Saturnine Gate. Instead of sending a small force, the entire Legion was sent to the gate to attack it, which is quite the gamble, and it was a bit successful until Fulgrim left after he learned the Sons of Horus' true assault failed. So he left while he summoned his Phoenix Guard to deal with the Loyalist forces and Rogel Doran, which failed because Doran butchered a lot of them while his sons reinforced him. After this, the Emperor's children did nothing for the rest of their time on Terra, only doing what they did before attacking the Saturnine Gate. They used the billions of Terrans to create stimulants and used them to summon war hosts of Slaanesh from the warp, or just killed by a traitor Marine to make them feel pleasure. After Horus was destroyed and the Loyalist reinforcements arrived at Terra, the Emperor's children were the last to get to the Eye of Terror, because they wanted more slaves for Fabius Bowell's experiments and wild parties to have on their ships and pleasure palaces. The Emperor's children fought in the Legion War like the other legions, and from this war Fabius Bile created a clone of Horus, but he was killed by the current War Master and former First Captain Abaddon. Fulgrim abandoned his legion and went to the demon planet named Calax. That was when the legion broke down into smaller war bands of Emperor's children and tried to find their father and bring him back for the past 10,000 years. They did participate in the 13th Black Crusade, but were far from the heavier fighting, and they fought in a few regiments of Imperial Guard and Tempestus Scions. Rumor has it that Fulgrim was assisting them because the description of the serpent that was assisting the warbands matched the description of Fulgrim. Now the only question is, what will the Emperor's children do? Will they reunite with their demon Primarch and cause havoc on the Imperium, or go out for the Eldar and bring their souls to their master? Now we have gotten to the end of the story of the history of the Emperor's children, and I hope you enjoy the story and share it with people who you know who would like this. I hope you have a hedonistic day, and may the Dark Prince grant you the boons of excess. This is Wisdom Warhammer, signing off.